Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sangham namasami. Who goes on a retreat and doesn't eat in the afternoon and travels a long way and sits absolutely in silence with a bunch of strangers for a week? Is this a popular activity? If you tell your friends, they scratch their heads and, what? You're gonna do what? What did you do? Nothing. I got addicted to the silence. And that's just it. Everything is in the silence. And then you have to deal with another level of noise, which is the mind wanting to find the perfect monastery or wanting to find the perfect companions in the holy life, even if they're sitting right next to you. You think that it must be somewhere else. But no, it's only here. Perfection is within us. So the heart of the monastic life is this bowl, the alms bowl. And the alms bowl represents our connection to the community. The Buddha was so wise, he didn't establish a monastic tradition where the monks and nuns go off in the mountains and do their own thing. Although some do, but they have supporters who will live nearby so that they can offer the food. And the whole principle is that we can't grow our own food. We have to depend on lay people to feed us. And it's just a wonderful relationship. It's ingenious, in fact. We discovered that people don't like the thought of us going hungry. That became more and more obvious to us during COVID, because in the middle of a pandemic, every single day, for all the years of fear and worry about contagion, people showed up every morning without fail. And when somebody failed, we had a rescue list we could call. We didn't have a steward. That was the main thing. It was just two bhikkhunis. But we had supporters living in the next village and living within range. Every morning, somebody showed up. We had a rota. Monday it was this person, Tuesday another, and so forth. And if somebody couldn't come, then we had an emergency person, and some of these people were not Buddhists. In fact, one of the people that helped us was Ayya Anuruddha's dental hygienist, who used to drive down our road every day, and one day we stopped her and asked her if she would mind coming in for a minute and offer the food. And we explained why, and she said, okay. And so she had a day, once a week. So this is a miraculous invention. It's just a simple bowl. It's unbreakable. And typically on Saturday mornings there's a farmer's market. So two of us will get a lift there and we'll stand for alms. And people that we know or people we don't know will come and put food in our bowls. And sometimes we get a lot and sometimes we get very little. But the relationship of the bowl and our own sense of what this means and standing for alms is an incredible experience, because we don't live in a Buddhist community, and it's a very conservative community at that. So we've had people come up to us and try to convert us. And people ask a lot of questions like, what do you do and what do you believe? And of course, this is not a practice based on belief, quite the opposite. It's a practice based on seeing for yourself, like going into the heart and investigating. And it's not so well known. It is in Christian contemplative communities. Here, that's what they do. They sit in the silence and listen for the voice of God. Well, we do the same thing. We listen for the voice of truth, which will come up in the heart. So whatever activity we engage in, it's all registered. Whatever we do day by day, we might do things that no one knows, but we know. It's all registered. So if we act with wholesomeness, when we sit down to meditate, we'll feel joy, because we've done well. We've done beautiful things. We sit with peace and joy in the heart. And if we've done unskillful things, we know. And when we sit down to meditate, what arises in the mind? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, well, never mind. But there's heat, there's unease, there isn't peace. And the mind will start rushing to the past and rushing to the future, but it cannot sit still, it cannot be silent, because there's no joy. There's no ability to reflect on our good actions, because we haven't been that kind or that pleasant to be with. And so this is such a powerful way of practicing. It's such a powerful opening that if we are not doing well in life, we won't be able to sit for long without weeping or jumping out of our seat or agonizing, agitating. And all of us that do this know that. You know that for yourselves. So when we stand with the bowl, we know when people bring the food that sometimes we stand there wondering, is anyone gonna? And we try not to think like that, because it's not about getting what you want. It's just being open to the present moment. It's a bit like the life that we lead. We don't know if people are going to come in the morning, but they do, they have, which is miraculous. And then you develop a relationship. But just the fact that we could live in a non-Buddhist country or community and have all these people show up regularly to feed us, some are Buddhist, some are not. Every day, we've been there for 15 years, I have never gone hungry. Never. Sometimes we get more, sometimes we get less, sometimes people bring us things that we can't eat. But we manage. And sometimes people bring us so much that it feels overwhelming. And then we put things away, and then the next day somebody will come and offer what's left. And so we can live on that for a few days. And we also feed the chipmunks and the squirrels and the robins and all the creatures, the bears, the raccoons. But this bowl is our relationship. It speaks to our relationship to the community, because upon this bowl we depend, our life depends. And there is a symbiosis with the community. Without the support and the love of the community, we don't eat. and without keeping our precepts and living the life as we're meant to, we don't earn that. And people know it. I'm sure they know. It's held precious. I think that to love the purity of the life, there's nothing like it. When you can do it and you do it and you see what you uphold is the purity in your own heart, and what you uphold is the blessings of that. And you bless yourself, you bless the community, you bless everything that is given, and everyone that comes shares in that. And if we don't keep the rule, what's the point? The world is full enough of lies and deceit. Somebody's got to stand up for the truth. And so we feel strong for doing that. And the Buddha set it up in such a way you can't cheat. Because if you do, everyone will know. They know. Because you would choke on the food. You just would. You can't eat alms food when you're not keeping the rule. And people wouldn't put anything in it. So we're always really amazed when someone we don't know at all shows up. This woman with her husband, they each offered a carrot, a little carrot. And then they went away. And it was nice, it was lovely to get a carrot. But they had a lot of carrots, so it was funny. They just pulled off one little carrot. And then later, the woman came and said, that wasn't enough. And she put the whole thing of carrots in the bowl. It was a surprise. So it's really incredible to live from the kindness and generosity of other people. One of the challenges of being the senior person in the monastery is that I also get feedback, and it's good for me. Sometimes that feedback comes from a place that's unwholesome, and I know that, but there's no receptivity. And so I've had to figure out over the years how to receive that feedback without being able to respond to it in a way that reflects that the person actually needs feedback themselves, without being able to retort. It's like you're living with somebody that will not receive feedback, but they're willing to give it. And I'm supposed to be training them, but they want to train me. So then I realized that actually I am being trained. This is the Buddha's exhortation that the awakened heart is ripened in humility, because the humility is when the algorithm has no ego in it. When the formula that you're following is not ego-based. That you see Mara and you take Mara down, and instead you bow to the triple gems and receive, well, this is, what does it feel like to hear things that pull your skin off, but you have no recourse, and you know that that person isn't trained and they're not your teacher. And then the teaching is that everyone is our teacher. Whether they speak kindly or are mean, or even if they're trying to destroy you, even in a small way, that they want to pull you down or get back at you. You've done something that annoys them, like ask them to help with some work, and they don't want to. It doesn't make any sense, but these things happen. They happen in family life, they happen in the monastery, especially a small place. We just receive what people are willing to give. So when there's a lot of anger, and somebody asked, why am I sweating when I'm angry? That's because anger is unwholesome. anger is inflammation. And when there's inflammation, there's heat. So if we feel ill will in the mind, then if we spread that, it's so easy to poison not only our own minds, but whoever we're with. It's contagious. And so a community that's holding somebody who's expressing their inflammation, we all sweat. We all start to get a little hot. And there has to be some way that we can cool down. The magic of monastic life is compassion. And we have the form, confinement, restriction, and living with people that you develop this anger towards. And then you have to meditate together, be silent together, and share the food together, share the facilities together. It's like you're trapped together with this angry, boiling over human being. And eventually, if we practice enough patience, forgiveness, tolerance towards that person, we can cool down. And they cannot hold their anger because the contagion goes the other way. But if we allow their anger to poison our state of mind, then we all blow up and we can't live together. I see that happening in the world where people don't know how to practice with inflammation. So the fire from one person can spread quickly. And if we're not conscious of it, if we're not aware enough, then our mind will catch fire too. And pretty soon our hearts will be inflamed because of somebody else's behavior. But if we practice enough forgiveness and tolerance, and that tolerance is not an approval, but it's a way of holding ground for ourselves so that we can live the way that is liberating for the heart. It's not just a discipline, but this training the mind to rely on what the Buddha invited us to do and exhorted us to do, to encourage each other and to cooperate in these unusual circumstances. So when you believe in something and you sustain it and it's on the path and you're upholding virtue, you're upholding values of kindness and trying to keep your mind away from fear and worry and irritation at conditions, but just turning to the blessing day by day and spiritual friendship, you can see the magic of life. There have been many times holding this bowl. I've gone on alms round when I was a solitary nun with my empty bowl and stood there and nobody put anything in my bowl. And then I would think, it's going to be like that. And then suddenly I had this idea that the empty bowl is a meal. The empty bowl is my teaching for today. One time when that happened, I was just ready to accept that's it. It's fine. It's empty, and can I be grateful for that? It doesn't matter. Suddenly, some complete stranger came over and put some food in my bowl. And it was almost time that I had to eat. And I was standing in a very isolated place, and I thought, where did this person come from? How did this happen? And I have so much faith and trust that the goodness is contagious, the energy travels. Someone walks by and sees me standing there and they are carrying a bread home and they put it in my bowl. How do these things happen? That they keep happening? So I trust that there is goodness and terrible things might happen, but there will always be some goodness in the heart that connects with the goodness in another. And we meet and carry this path forward, because that's what we're here to do. So there was another time when that happened, and I was alone, there was no meal, there was an empty bowl, and somebody walked by and recognized me and came up to me and said, "Oh, I know you, you're from that monastery." Oh, thank goodness. She'll put some food in my bowl. And she told me all about how nice it was visiting a monk's monastery. And then she said, "Okay, well, have a nice day," and left. And then I was standing in front of a bakery, and this Cambodian man came out of the bakery and he saw me. And he bowed down on the sidewalk and put a meat pie in my bowl and went away. I knew what it was, and I was a vegetarian. And I thought, a meat pie? Wow, okay, I'm going to eat. So I went to a park and I gave the meat to the crows and I ate the crust, and I was the happiest nun on earth. Because it was really miraculous. Out of nowhere, this guy comes out. You know, you stand in front of a bakery with some hope. The world is full of miracles, and you're part of that. The fact that you're all here. The fact that this center exists in this world is a miracle. This is from Thérèse of Lisieux, who is my teacher when I was a solitary nun. One is committed to love only to the extent that one is committed to suffering. Suffering is our teacher, because if we didn't suffer, if we had no obstacles, this road would lead nowhere. It's only because we have suffering in our life and we study it, we learn about it. And this is what the Buddha tells us. What's the first noble truth? Why did the Buddha use suffering as our teacher? We're born, we live, we die. Relationships, possessions, the world, all conditioned phenomena. It's the first noble truth. What is the origin of the suffering? We learn that, we understand it, we study it in ourselves, in our bodies, in our minds, in the heart. And we learn the origin of our suffering, and we observe it, and we learn about anicca, impermanence. The suffering is impermanent, and we see the ending of it, and we realize what brings it to an end. And in terms of our moral well-being, our joy and our happiness, we see that the beginning of it is in bringing suffering within us and within the world and everyone around us to an end. So if we only care about our own happiness, then we suffer. But it's when we care about the happiness of others that suffering really ends. That's love. And that's where the Noble Eightfold Path leads us, to that kind of unconditional love and compassion. Because if we only love this, that's ego. And ego is our big blinder, blindfold. It's delusion, ignorance, encapsulated. So non-self, the anatta, to go beyond the self, to take care of everyone, ourselves included, all beings, and live for the well-being of all beings. This is a universal quality of love that we develop and we embody and we work for, and that will be our saving grace. That's the Christian word is salvation, liberation. We're all doing the same work. That's why I look at the cross and I see the teaching of suffering and the saving of the being by knowing that. Its origin, its ending, and the way to end it through compassion.